Do you crack under the pressure of cooking breakfast? Have kitchen disasters been leaving you with egg on your face? Fear not, yolk folk. We've got all the top tips for the perfect fried eggs. When getting ready to cook your eggs, you'll want to start off strong with the right equipment. People tend to have all different types of pans in their kitchen, including cast iron skillets, non-stick frying pans, stainless steel frying pans, and more. The best option for flipping your eggs flawlessly, however, is a non-stick frying pan. This is the type of pan you'd find in the kitchen of any breakfast restaurant. Non-stick pans are made differently depending on the brand, but many have layers of a non-stick coating. These pans make it incredibly easy to slide your eggs onto the spatula when it's time to turn, leaving little residue on the pan, and resulting in a seamless flip. Stainless steel pans are better reserved for cooking more heavy-duty ingredients, such as chicken and beef. If you were to cook an egg on a stainless steel pan, the chances of it sticking are quite high. This in itself makes the act of flipping incredibly difficult. You need a smooth, non-stick surface in order to have an easy egg flip. Meanwhile, you can use cast iron skillets to fry and flip an egg, but it's not the easiest choice. This will take a bit of finesse, including figuring out just the right amount of oil and heat to use. Some people prefer to cook their fried eggs with a cast iron skillet because it gives them crispy, well-fried edges. But for the perfect flip, non-stick wins out. Now that you have your pan of choice, you need to make sure that you're using the correct pan size for the amount of eggs that you're cooking. If the pan is too small, it can cause your eggs to cook unevenly. If the pan is too large, it can cause them to spread out too thin and lose their shape. If you're cooking one fried egg at a time, go for a smaller pan. Approximately 6 inches should be enough. Even in this case, you don't want the pan to be too small, because that can make flipping difficult. A 6-inch pan will prevent a single egg from running too much, but leave you room to be able to get the spatula right under the egg. For 2 to 3 eggs, you'll want to size up to about 8 to 10 inches. If you're really going for gold and cooking 4 to 5 eggs in one go, a 12-inch pan should be enough. Essentially, the more eggs you're cooking, the bigger the pan required. Many people tend to rush when they cook their eggs. This is probably because it's a common breakfast meal, and taking time to make breakfast in the morning usually means sacrificing at least a little sleep. What you may not realize, however, is that not preheating your pan is only going to lead to more cleaning time afterwards. Preheating your pan is so important because if you put your eggs into the pan before it's hot enough, the egg white is likely to run. When that happens, the egg is more likely to stick to the pan, the shape is lost, and the ability to flip the egg seamlessly goes out the window. If you set your pan up on a very low heat setting and let it heat up for about 4 to 5 minutes for a medium-sized pan, you'll be good to go. If you're a bit impatient, make it a habit to get your pan straight on the stove before you start preparing for breakfast. Let the pan heat up while you gather all your ingredients, get your coffee brewing, and then you can start cooking those eggs. It's important to grease your pan even if it's non-stick. You have 2 main options for types of grease: oil and butter. Both are valid options, but they yield slightly different results. As long as your grease is a fat source, however, it will work. If you want to use oil, we'd recommend olive oil. This is one of the healthiest oils out there and works great with eggs. Olive oil works especially well if you'd like your fried egg to be crispy on the edges. It also works great if you're going for an over-easy egg. You'll want to add your oil to the pan halfway through the preheating process. That way, you give the pan and your oil the chance to warm up before adding your eggs. Butter is another common choice of grease, mainly because people enjoy the flavor that it imparts.
Fattening.
Butter is great if you like your egg white to be soft and creamy instead of crispy. Once you have about a minute left of your preheating time, you can place your butter in the pan. As soon as it's melted and slightly bubbling, it's time to add your egg. Generally, you want to make sure you add your fat source to the pan after it's slightly warmed up. Leave just enough time for the oil or butter to slightly bubble, and then get your eggs cooking. If you're putting all this work into your breakfast, you probably don't want to ruin it all by using eggs that aren't fresh. This doesn't mean that you should only be using eggs straight from your neighbor's chicken coop, but it is wise to be more mindful when choosing your eggs at the grocery store. When selecting your eggs, always check the date written on the carton. Most eggs list a best by date, and consuming products after that date might mean they're not at their best. Even if the eggs aren't past the best by date, it's worth checking to see if they're close. As time goes on, the eggs start to decline in quality. This can lead to the eggs being more runny than usual, which can make them harder to flip. This doesn't mean they're bad, but it'll be better if you prepare your eggs as near as possible to the date on which they were packaged. When picking up eggs at the store, you should also try to pick a carton from the back of the refrigerator. This is where the freshest eggs will be, because the store needs to sell the older eggs first. Another quick tip to make sure your eggs are at their best is to take them out of the refrigerator a few minutes before you start cooking them. If you place a very cold egg into a warmed-up pan, it could slow down the cooking process. There's nothing worse than cracking an egg on the side of a pan and watching a handful of shell fragments fall in alongside it. So what can you do to avoid this kind of scenario? Well, the best way to crack an egg is on a flat surface. This is because cracking your egg on a corner actually pushes the eggshells into the egg, which causes them to get into the egg white. Cracking on a flat surface will help keep the shells out of your business. Celebrity chef Bobby Flay never cracks his eggs directly into the pan. Instead, he cracks it into a small bowl or dish, and then carefully tips it into the pan. This way, if a shell does get in, he can easily get it out of the dish before putting it in the pan. This method also helps to control the placement of the egg in the pan, keeping it in its cooking spot without it spreading across the pan. There's a lot of prep work involved in getting the perfect eggs, but now you've finally reached the time to flip. Now, you want to make sure you have the right spatula for the job. First, make sure that the spatula is thin enough to slide under the egg. This will prevent you from accidentally pushing the egg onto itself, possibly cracking the yolk or weakening the edges of the egg white. A thick spatula isn't going to be your friend when it comes to flipping. If you went into the kitchen of your favorite breakfast restaurant, you would probably see the chef flipping eggs with a thin metal spatula. They're the type with the little grates or holes on the surface. These help keep the spatula light, resulting in an easier flip. Silicone spatulas will do the job too, but you need to make sure again that it is thin enough to fit underneath the egg. Remember, a good quality spatula will make or break your eggs, so make sure you invest in one that works. The temperature that you cook your eggs at will directly affect your ability to flip them. Now, this tends to be variable depending on what type of fried egg you are cooking, whether it's over easy, over medium, or an over hard egg. After you've preheated your pan on a low setting, you can change the temperature once the egg is on. If you're going for that ooey gooey over easy egg, you'll need to pay close attention to the heat. Keep your heat level on low or slightly increase it to medium, and only let it sit for about 45 seconds to a minute before you flip it. For over medium and over hard eggs, you're safe in the medium heat range. Cook for a little longer before you flip, adding about 20 seconds for medium and an extra 20 to 30 seconds for over hard. Keep monitoring your pan, however, because heat can build up and things can easily go wrong if the pan gets too hot. If the eggs are cracking and popping, turn that heat down. If smoke is sizzling up, you've gone way too far.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
On the other hand, it's possible to have the heat too low. If the egg whites aren't turning white and solidifying soon after you put the egg in the pan, you may need to turn it up. Many people make the mistake of trying to flip the egg at the wrong time. When this happens, you can accidentally break the yolk or cause the uncooked egg whites on top to slide off the cooked base. Basically, disaster.
Can I offer you a nice egg in this trying time? Yeah!
The good news is, if you've done everything right so far, actually flipping the egg should go fairly seamlessly, as long as you do it at the right time. The key to knowing it's time to flip is to keep your eye on the egg whites. You want them to be fully white, with only clear parts left closest to the yolk. Another indicator is to check the edges of the egg white. If the edges have a clear shape, as in they are solidified and not still malleable, you will be able to flip the egg fairly easily. Start by testing the edge with the spatula to make sure that it will come up nicely. It's always good to slightly loosen the egg with the edge of the spatula. Once you've done that, you can slide the spatula under the fried egg, lift it up, and flip. Among other things, TikTok is a great place to find new recipes and cooking hacks. One trick that took the app by storm is the method of flipping your eggs using the frying pan's lid. This is a great technique if you're making over-easy or over-medium eggs, because it makes it so much harder to accidentally break the yolk. For this method, pick up your pan once the egg is ready to be flipped. Shake the pan slightly to loosen the egg. Once the egg is seamlessly sliding around the pan, you're ready to go. Take the lid and hold it upside down. Slowly slide the cooked egg into the lid. You want the yolk to remain facing up. Once it's slid into the lid, flip the pan to be placed on top of the lid, pressing firmly. Then, flip both hands 180 degrees and remove the lid. Your egg will be perfectly flipped and placed back into the pan. And hey, presto! Perfect fried eggs cooked exactly how you like them. What could be better than that?